is like chocolate cocaine. I'm glad you said no to that because I'm the star of this. Hey everyone, I'm Adam Roberts, the amateur gourmet, and today I am making one of my favorite cakes. It's like the cake from childhood that everybody loves, a yellow cake with chocolate frosting. And I'm going to show you how to make it from scratch. So here we go. Now, the very first step when you're making a cake, and one of the most important steps that a lot of people gloss over, is prepping the pans. Now, the simplest way to prep your pan for a cake is to just spritz it, which is fine, and you can do that. But if you want more flavor in your cake, then it's much better to smear butter all around. And to do that, we're going to use some of the butter we're going to be using in the cake. This is the other most important thing, I hope Christopher doesn't cut this out, is that you have to let all your butter come to room temperature before you make the cake. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you a cool trick for making a circle to line the bottom of the pan. So I just tore off a square of parchment that lays neatly on the pan. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold it like a triangle like that, or fold it in half. And then you're going to fold that in half. So far, pretty easy, so looks just like a triangle.
Sure, Jan.
Then we're going to fold that in half, and each time we're just making another triangle. And the goal is to make a pointy triangle thingy that we're going to now stick on the outside of the pan. And we basically want to cut this so that it will unfold to fill the bottom. And the way you do that is you get the point of your triangle in the center of the pan. So that's sort of good. So I cut that. And now here's the fun part. We unfurl it and we've got a perfect piece of parchment to line the pan. See? Great trick. Aren't you glad you're watching this show?
I know I am.
So now we have the two pieces of parchment ready for the pan. So we're going to cut one of these sticks in half. And we're going to use the other half to put butter in the pan. I recommend using your fingers. It's messy, but it gets the job done. So I'm going to smear the butter all around with my fingers. And again, you might be wondering, why is this better than a spray? Christopher loves it when I mess up because then he gets to do those funny little things.
It's true.
So now we're buttering the parchment for the same reasons we want to butter the sides, which is to get some flavor into the bottom of the cake. Okay, now we have two completely prepped cake pans. Yay! Time to make the cake. Okay, so we are going to start making the cake by mixing the dry ingredients first. This is an important step. So to measure your dry ingredients, well, first of all, I want to say this is cake flour. And cake flour is finer and lighter than all-purpose flour. And so if you have a recipe like this one that says use cake flour, you actually do want to seek out cake flour because it will make for a lighter, fluffier cake. So this is cake flour. Now, my friend Ben Mims, who's a food writer, taught me something about measuring flour that has changed the way that I measure flour. Now, he's really down on Ina Garten going like this, where she scoops into the thing and then levels it off. That scoop is gonna have more flour in it than doing what Ben taught me to do, which is to take the flour and to like spoon it over the measuring cup. It seems a little dainty and a little precious, but what it really is doing is it's putting less flour in the cup, which will make for a lighter cake. Okay, so we got 3 cups of cake flour in there, and now we're just gonna add the other standard baking things. So we're gonna do 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna whisk this so those ingredients are mixed. And I just got this Pyrex, isn't it cute? I got it on Etsy, it's vintage.
Yeah, it's old.
1.5 sticks butter, 4 large eggs, and 2 yolks. So I got all these bowls because we're gonna crack, whoops. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I am so bad at not breaking the yolk. Sorry, I'm being really hard on myself.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Okay, so now we have all our eggs prepped, and the final ingredient here, which I'm very excited about, is buttermilk. And what's so cool about buttermilk in a recipe like this is that it is an acid, and so it reacts with the baking powder and the baking soda and helps it lift up. That's why buttermilk is in biscuits. It helps, make things rise more. It creates more of a chemical reaction. It's like when you add like baking soda and vinegar when you're in middle school and you make the volcano.
Look, I won.
Okay, there we go. And again, this is so important. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you. I told you earlier, I'm going to say it again. You want your buttermilk, you want your eggs, and you want your butter to all be at room temperature. This is so important because you want everything to kind of work into itself. And if you have cold chunks of butter and cold eggs, you're going to kind of get like a curdled mess.
Ew, gross.
So now we've got 1.5 sticks of butter, and we want 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Okay, so that's 3/4 of a cup. We're gonna beat this together, and we're gonna want this to get really light and fluffy.
Oh, fluffy.
When it's like cream the butter and sugar until it's light and fluffy, it's a really important step, and we're gonna start it now because it should take a little while. This has been going for about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I think it's ready. It's looking light and fluffy. I don't see individual grains of sugar in there. So now we're gonna do the eggs one at a time, as best we can. So, egg number 1. Yeah, let's see if we can figure out what's happening. Yeah, it's, for some reason, it got a little grainy. But it's still gonna be delicious, don't worry. So let's work this in a little bit more. All right, so now we're gonna do a tablespoon of this. That's curdled. Let's go to the computer and see what's going on. So I just Googled it because I got concerned that this was curdled, but apparently just adding the flour will uncurdle it because it will help everything come back together. So I'm actually gonna add the flour from this bowl. I'm gonna start adding it, and let's see if that's true. I think it will come back together. Oh yeah, look at that. Like magic. Now the way this works is we're gonna add 1/3 of the dry ingredients, and then we're gonna add some of the buttermilk, and then we're gonna finish with the dry ingredients. So this will help smooth it out too. Oh yeah, that looks amazing. We're gonna add half of the buttermilk. This is all gonna be beautiful. Yeah, that's looking better. I was actually genuinely concerned, but we have nothing to worry about. But I was very worried for a while. This is why you're watching the amateur cooking show and not a professional cooking show. Okay, so I smoothed out the batter. It's looking good, and now we're just gonna pour it into our beautifully prepared pans. It smells already like just that smell of like a yellow cake. That is such a nostalgic smell for me. I mean, we all made those mixes growing up, didn't we? Okay, so this is going in for 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes. Oh, I actually watched a video where somebody gets the air out by going like that. So we're gonna do that too. I don't really know what that does, but we're doing it. Okay, into the oven, which is, oh yeah, we preheated this oven to 350. All right, so 30 minutes. Okay, now we're gonna make the chocolate frosting for this cake, and I'm very excited about it. So we've got our 3 sticks of butter at room temperature. We're gonna use a whole box of confectioner's sugar, and then we're gonna use cocoa powder. So, as a first step, we're gonna sift. The sifting will allow us to work in the cocoa powder. So we're gonna start sifting. When you sift, you wanna hit the side like that. The other thing that you can do when you're sifting is you can stir it. Okay, so 1.5 cups of cocoa. Okay, wow, this is going so slow. This could be part of my workout video though. You make the cake with your wooden spoon, and then you slowly sift the, I mean, this is cardio, right? Like, if I like shake my hips,
there you go.
It's like I'm Zumba-ing. All right, so we've sifted our sugar. Now, it should be said, this is one kind of frosting you can make for a cake. I like this because it's so simple. You're getting the chocolate flavor from cocoa powder. But you could also do ganache frosting where you melt real solid chocolate with hot cream and then let that sit for a while, and then you whip that up. And that's actually how Alex Cornicelli made her yellow cake with chocolate frosting. She did it with ganache. I've done that before. I have a recipe in my upcoming cookbook, Give My Swiss Arts to Broadway, the Broadway Lovers Cookbook, where I do make a ganache frosting. I think that was for my Phantom of the Opera cake. So now we're gonna do the same thing we did earlier, where we're softening the butter. And after the lumpy experience I had last time, I really wanna get this nice and soft before we start adding the dry ingredients. All right, and the other thing we want is a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of buttermilk. So we're going back to the buttermilk. This is the most important thing, is to scrape down the sides of the bowl as you go. So we're gonna turn that back on and we're gonna start adding the powdered sugar and the cocoa. Oh wow. Okay, now it's coming together. Okay, I can see that looks like frosting. Oh wait, our cakes are ready, sorry. Here. We'll turn that off. It's actually looking pretty good. Alexa, stop timer.
Don't tell me what to do.
Ooh, those look beautiful. I mean, I can just tell those are done. But just to make sure, I stick the spaghetti in the center. Came out clean. We're done. So this is looking good, actually. I don't know what Christopher's so worried about. And now let's add the buttermilk. I think this is pretty good. Because what I'm trying to get to is a consistency where I'll be able to spread it on the cake. We've achieved frosting. It looks like the kind of frosting you would get if you were making a cake from a box, which is exactly what we were going for. Okay, but the frosting of the cake is its own endeavor, so stick around for that.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, now the fun part. We're gonna flip out these cakes. They've been cooling for 15 minutes, which is why I can hold them. Beautiful cakes out of the pan. Thank you, butter. Thank you, parchment. Thank you, Adam. Okay, now is the moment of truth. We are going to ice this cake. The cakes are cool. They've been cooling for about an hour. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to level the cake. I mean, so you can see this cake is pretty round and flat. So this is going to be our top. This one got a little bit more of a dome on it. So what you do is you just get a serrated knife, and then you put your hand here, and then you just kind of run it parallel to the cake. Other thing I'm going to show you, this is so important. It's such a great trick. Again, it's another parchment trick. So when you ice a cake like this, you're going to get frosting everywhere. And a great tip is to lay down parchment, but you want to do it in strips because you want to be able to pull the parchment out. So I'll put one like that, and then I'm going to actually just put the cake on it to hold it down. And then we're going to put one under here. Again, this is just to keep it clean. And now we are ready to start icing this cake. Okay, so now the icing, I think, is a good consistency. We just want to make sure it's spreadable. I think this is good and spreadable. The main tool you're going to want to use is an offset spatula. That's what's going to let you smear it all around. So you just sort of use your offset spatula. This is going to be a little tricky because it's a thick frosting. So now we're going to ice the top of the cake. This is the main strategy. You put a lot on the top and then you kind of guide it down the sides. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put most of it on right now. I mean, that looks pretty delicious. So our strategy here is to try to push the icing towards the sides so that we can then use the stuff that comes down the sides to ice the sides of the cake. I could have bought like little rainbow sprinkles or something to put on top, I just realized, but I don't think we need that. We're going for rustic. But see, because I put so much on the top, it actually makes it pretty easy to get down to the sides. My husband's mother once made him for his like 4th grade birthday a Jabba the Hutt cake, which was just basically like a giant mound of cake. So this is where you kind of like can swoop it to make it like, you know, give it a little height and character. All right, we're gonna yank.
Give it a good yank.
Okay, first yank, second yank. You gotta do it confidently. All right, now the moment of truth where we get to cut into the cake and eat it. Just like Christopher wanted. Oh my goodness, look at that. This is my homemade yellow cake with chocolate frosting, and now we're going to try it. my god. It's so good. The cake is delicious, it's light. And then the frosting is just rich and buttery, and that Hershey's cocoa powder gives it that nostalgic flair that we were looking for. So if you're looking to make a yellow cake with chocolate frosting, make this one. Thanks for watching my show. If you want to catch me elsewhere, you can follow me on Instagram at Amateur Gourmet, or you can subscribe to my newsletter, the Amateur Gourmet newsletter on Substack. And you can subscribe to this show by clicking in one of these corners. All right, well, tune in next week. I'm gonna finish eating this cake.